the first Filipino set to compete in the F4 British Championship. You're only 17. Are you even legally allowed to be driving? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sports Season podcast, where we get to know the sports that you know about and those that you should know about. Once again, I am Javi Sison, and today's guest is the 2017 Asian Karting Open Juniors champion, the winner of the 2019 Macau International Kart Grand Prix, and the first Filipino set to compete in the F4 British Championship, Eduardo Coseteng. Eduardo, thank you so much for taking time and for being here, even with the time difference.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
I'll start off by asking, how you are, with this whole pandemic. I don't know, you're in England right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm in England. Yeah.
So what's the situation like there right now, compared to here? It's not that good.
Yeah, I think I've heard some news in the Philippines from my family and from television that pandemic there is not very good. I think you went through another lockdown again, something like that.
Yeah, right now.
But
But
yeah,
for you in England, I think I'm not sure if I read correctly, but I think you guys aren't even required to wear masks. Is that right?
no, I think we still are. I think that's the wrong country. I think
Okay,
New
okay.
Zealand, Australia doesn't need to wear masks, but we definitely do. It's not that bad here. I mean, still quite restricted. All the
Mhm.
pubs and restaurants are closed and everything. But yeah, I think it's not as bad as the Philippines. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
yeah, hopefully
Okay.
that racing's back.
But I really appreciate your time. Actually, I was just scrolling through Instagram, and then one of the Philippine sports pages, Patron Sports, I saw them post about you and you being chosen to be in the F4 competition, and so I really appreciate the follow back and you responding to my message. I was actually pretty surprised how quick we got to set this up.
No
But
problem. Yeah.
yeah, so actually, it was only after you said yes that I got to do some research about you. And the first thing I noticed was you're only 17. Is that
Yeah, I'm only
right?
17.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the first thing I have to ask about that is, your sport is racing. Are you even legally allowed to be driving?
No, not yet. I think this year when I'm 17, I am allowed to drive on the road. But since I started, no, you can't. It's only the circuits. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even like here in the Philippines. Okay, but yeah, we'll get to that later. I really appreciate your time. I'm glad I got to have you as a guest because, I don't think racing is that big here in the country, and it's really nice to get to know the sport, and especially from someone who's been competing for a long time. So we'll start out with that, and then we'll go into your career, and then I guess your thoughts then on the racing situation here in the country.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier though that you grew up here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So like were you already racing while you were growing up? Like when did it start?
So I started when I was 8 years old. There's not a lot of circuits in the Philippines. I started at a track in Cavite in Carmona.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a clinic there. It's, I think it's called Tuasan Racing. So
Mm.
basically, they have this program where a lot of young kids like myself back then, I think maybe like 7 to 12 years old who want to start racing. So it's basically like a school to start racing basically, and that's how I got started really.
So okay, how did okay, in this country like you said it's not really that big. So
Yeah.
what was it about racing that kind of made you stick to it? There's so many other sports, there's so many other activities. What was it about racing that you're like, this is what I want to be doing?
I don't know. It's just a really different sport. It's quite unique. Um, it's really different from other sports where it's like, let's say, football or basketball.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's really really well known, and a lot of people play the sport and be successful in it. Racing is really quite a not a small community, but a smaller community than most sports. But yeah, I don't know. I think it had something to do with my dad being a racing driver as well. I was at the track when I was young before I started racing. I
Okay.
kind of really stuck to it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it when I was young. So just stuck to it all throughout.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask also about when you started competing internationally. But before that, I want to get to know a little bit more about the sport from someone who's been competing in it for a long time. And when we look at, like you were mentioning, we talked about basketball, football, all these other sports. Physical attributes like strength, speed, all of those are very important and they're useful in sports. In racing, how helpful or how important is it? Because it doesn't really come off. It doesn't as obvious, I guess, because
Yeah.
you have a car, right? But
Yeah.
for you, how important do you think it is?
As for a racing driver, it's really, really important to be physically fit. I mean, yeah, as you said, the racing is not really well known, so not a lot of people know about the sport. But yeah, fitness is one of the most important things in racing. Well, you can be the fastest driver could always be the most fit driver on the grid. Yeah, it's definitely important. How fast you're going through the corners, how many G forces you have going the opposite way, pushing your body the other way. Yeah, and there's no power steering. Like in a car where
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
normal car, it's really light to steer the car because there's a machine to make it lighter. But in racing, there isn't any, so it's quite heavy. You basically steering like less than 200 kilograms of weight left and right.
Okay, okay. I guess just a follow up for that. I think it's a common question that Filipinos ask. Well, does does height or weight affect I guess your racing? Because I think obviously with Filipinos we like to know the height part especially, but
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your opinion,
I mean, if you see the F1 drivers now, not a lot of them are very tall. They're
okay,
pretty, the average height for Filipinos pretty short, like maybe 5'6", five
yeah,
nine, something like that. But yeah, for karting, a lot of drivers are very small and they tend to be quite fast.
okay,
Usually tall drivers, when it's wet, they kind of the center of gravity is quite high, so they could kind of lean on
okay,
the other side of the car to make it have a little bit more grip.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, but for weight, you don't really want to be overweight because there's a
yeah,
weight limit in the car. So
okay,
if you
okay,
exceed that, obviously you'll be slower. It's better to be just under, or yeah. But if you're too light, I mean, they put weights on it on the seat to make
oh,
you make sure you there's a minimum weight, so make sure you reach a minimum weight. So
okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's pretty
So
fair.
there really has to be like a balance, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It should be. I mean, if you're a normal weight, then you should be okay.
Mm. All right.
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier, it's not that common because we mostly see the car. So as a racing driver, and considering you're only 17, how much do you have to know about cars, or is it like really a balance? Like you have a crew, I'm sure, but do you think that you have like a special an added knowledge on cars as compared to most people?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you join a sport, that's one of the things that's most important. Is a good racing driver knows what he wants from the car. So like, if he wants more rear grip, less rear grip, more front, less
Okay.
front, the basics. That could really find you a tenth or two, which is all you need in being one of the fastest drivers. Yeah, in the start you don't really know like what you need from the car because you're quite new to it all. But if you have a good team, the coach, the mechanics will let you know. Um, this feels like if it feels like this, you need that or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you just need a good team to let you know. Really.
Okay. But for you, how would I guess I'm sure having a good car is obviously really good. Obviously, having a good driver is really good. Which do you think that one is more important than the other? Like, if you're a really good driver, you could win with a bad car, or if you're a really if you have a really good car, you could win with a bad driver. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, the most common answer you get probably is a driver because if you have a
Okay.
good driver, you can adapt to what the car is handling, like how the car is, and he could maybe change it to a better one. But I mean, it's hard to tell because when you're in Formula Four, you, most cars are the same. Like you all have the same stuff. It's just the
Okay.
difference is with setup, and
Yeah.
everybody can have the same setup. It depends really on the driver, on how good he is in telling which setup is the fastest. But I personally think the driver is bigger, is more has a bigger factor than having a good car.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is something I think a lot of viewers would be interested to know because um injuries are very common with sports in general. But when you're racing, it's the accidents are really are obviously a lot worse. So how are you able to adapt to that, or how are you able to go into a race knowing that, or especially I guess for me, personally, I would think that my parents would be freaking out if I was a race car driver. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure your dad being a racer and all of that helps, but it's still a factor, I'm sure, going into any race. How are you able to get through that?
I mean, I don't think injuries are more likely to happen than other sports like
Yeah.
football and basketball because the safety precautions are quite high. You wear a proper kit made by the FAA. It's a French organization to make sure everything is safe. So you have your helmet, suit, boots, gloves, and neck protector. So yeah, you're quite safe on the car. Like the crashes, um, you could get away without getting injured. I mean, on the go kart, I've actually flipped on a kart before and landed on my head.
Oh.
But yeah, I was fine. Like there's it's pretty scary. Yeah, but there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
injuries. I didn't even sprain anything. I was just more in
Okay.
shock, really. But yeah, I don't think you get injured quite often in a cart or a car.
So it's kind of I guess you could say it's really like any other sport. Like, there's always a risk naman for
Yeah,
injuries,
yeah,
but yeah, uh, okay. Okay, for all the viewers that aren't that familiar, because when we look at race cars racing, we see them obviously just on the track and everything. But what's the training like? Because we see all these other sports, we know what their training's like. There's, they run plays, they run physicals, but what's the training like for you guys as racers?
You mean training in terms of strategy to be like a better racing driver, or in terms of like physical stuff like in the gym, or
I'm actually curious to know both. So let's start with the physical stuff, because
okay.
yeah.
So for the physical stuff, you need endurance. So the basics like running, treadmill, or stuff like that is quite important. And the muscles you need really is more from the waist up. You don't really need
Okay.
strong legs because the work is mostly done from your core, chest, and your arms. So yeah, so core is really important, and then everything just basically from the waist up, like core, arms, your neck especially, because nothing's holding your neck from like the forces pushing it the other way
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
when you turn. So yeah, it's quite physical. So yeah, you do a lot of neck training as well.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think y- a common misconception would be, you need your legs because you gotta press the gas stronger.
Yeah, yeah, not really. I mean, you
Yeah.
just need like you don't really need a lot of leg workout. Just maybe if you don't have that strong legs to press the brake, maybe you have to. But sometimes, most of the time, you don't really need to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. But I'm glad you brought up the strategic part, because I would think that it is just you got to be the fastest on the track, but you were
yeah,
mentioning that there's a strategic aspect to it. So could you, I guess, delve into that a little more?
yeah. There's a lot of things a lot of factors to consider in karting or in cars. I mean, if you want to be a fast driver, a lot of people can be fast drivers. You just need practice, a lot of laps, a good team to teach you how to be fast. But in terms of strategy, there's a lot of things you need to consider, like not so much in karting, but in an F4 level, you need to not to conserve tires quite a lot. So that's a strategy. So you basically really want to be in the lead and have a gap so you can conserve your tires. So you don't push the car as hard as usual. So you don't have a lot of scrub. Like you don't slide a lot to degrade the tires. Um, yeah, that's one of them. Another one is the overtaking. It's really hard to explain. It's more on it's more an experience. You know, you can't really train that in practice.
Yeah.
You learn through your race really. Just positioning with the car, how far you can go for a gap and brake late enough to go up his inside, and things like that. Yeah, just learning the race is quite hard to practice.
Okay, so now I wanted to talk about your career, and obviously you started. Obviously, you can't start with a single seat from a young age, but you started
Yeah.
in karting. Is that really the usual approach for drivers who want to get into F1, F4? You really start out with karting for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, karting is just the basics really. You won't really see anyone make it into F4 or GT cars when you don't do karting, because karting is basically the basic level. Everyone needs to go through karting to do cars.
And you
Yeah.
started like I think you were saying when you were how old?
I started when I was
Okay, and
8 years old.
then when did you start? When did you start competing internationally?
Um, Not really sure. So I would say around 12, I started competing around Asia,
Okay,
and then I moved to Europe when I was in grade 9. So I'm not sure how old I was then.
it was probably
Um,
around what's that, 13, I guess,
uh,
around that age. Yeah,
yeah, I think like 13, 14. Yeah, yeah, should
yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, so I moved here in the UK to race in Europe because it's the highest level of racing and karting and in cars. So yeah, I went to a lot of countries. I went to the UK, Belgium, Germany, Italy, France, all those European countries just to race. Yeah.
And then okay, so let's talk about your well when you won the 2017 Asian, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the Asian karting juniors. So how was that experience? Like, were you coming in as a favorite? What was going through your mind the whole race? What was the preparation like?
It's quite a long time ago. I'm not sure if I remember all of it, but yeah, I think I was one of the favorites to win. I
Okay.
think from the first free practice, we were one of the fastest already on the board. So I think we were the ones to beat. But I think we came out on top, that year. And yeah, yeah, that's it really.
So how was it? Was it like a big deal for you, or is it just another tournament? I mean, it's what I would guess it's one of your first championships, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that was the first year I competed in Asia.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so it was a big deal to me because my father wasn't really too keen on um, racing outside of the Philippines because
Really?
I don't think we were doing the budget in terms of
Oh
finance
yeah.
for racing quite wasn't the best back then. So I think he found some budget and tried it in Asia, and yeah, been did well in Asia.
So was it at this point, or when exactly did you realize like this is something that I want to do for how long? Or I'm pretty sure it might have been when you moved, but yeah, what was that like?
I think when I started when I was 8, I think I already knew I wanted to do this
Wow. Okay.
for like the rest of my life. Yeah, when I was 8, I think I already knew I wanted to do it. I mean, I think before I started, I already wanted to do it because I was just at the track every day because my dad was racing. But yeah, but what really made me realize that I'm probably doing this for a long part of my life is when I moved to the UK to a
Definitely.
boarding
Yeah.
school. Yeah, away from your family. Everything's new country. So yeah, I think that was the most important part in me realizing I'm doing this for a long time.
Okay, and then you went on in 2019 to win the Macau International.
Yeah.
What does that experience like for you? How big was that?
Yeah, that was pretty big. I mean, I kind of stopped racing in Asia because I was already in Europe. So
Yeah.
I really had a break in Asia. So no one, I don't think a lot of people knew I was doing it. And then once the entry list came out, a lot of people saw that I was in it, and I think I was probably the favorite, maybe the favorite again there because, you know, uh, I've won the Macau Grand Prix quite in other years since I think not sure what year, but I was quite young then. Maybe like I was around 13, 14. But yeah, um, yeah, we because in Europe, I moved to Europe because the racing there, the level of racing there is really high. So I learned a lot there. So when I came back to Asia, it was so much easier than what it was before. I mean, I think from qualifying to the finals, I think we won everything. We didn't come second in any of the races. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, so before I want to talk about your transition to single seat, but first I wanted to get an idea of what of the level of competition in F4, because I'm sure you know that most people when they think of racing, it's always F1. That's the thing that's obviously, I mean, understandably, what's followed. But I'm sure F4 is high level of competition. I'm sure a lot of people go from F4 to F1. But could you, I guess, share with us, what it's like in the F4? I guess what's the difference also compared to the more known F1?
Yeah, I mean, an F4 is basically four steps down from an F1. You know, the shape of the car is quite similar, but there's not a lot of fine details compared to an F1. I mean, F1 is more of a bigger budget. You know, it's a world sport. You know, it's known to a lot of people. But compared to F4 is more of like the starting point to get to F1. Just less everything, so less money involved, less parts on a car, less power. You know, just less everything. Yeah.
Okay. So um, you're part of the Argenti Motorsport team right now.
Yeah.
But is this your first time going single seat racing?
Yeah, yeah, it's my first ever year in single seaters.
How is the transition? I mean, going from karting to that, like what's it like? Like how different is it? How, or maybe it's easy for you. I don't know.
No, it's really difficult. I'll tell you that. Um, yeah, the things you have to consider from karting to cars is such a big difference. I mean, with a top speed, I mean, on a cart, I think down the straights you'd go like maybe less than 100, maybe like 80 to 90 kilometers an hour, and then on an F4 car you do like 200 to let's say 230 kilometers an hour maximum on the straight. So it's quite a big step, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everything's harder. You know, I thought it was physically harder because it's a heavier car, so the steering wheel's a lot heavier. I mean, just with the seating position, like on a cart, you kind of sit upright, like a 90-degree angle, not 90, but like somewhat close to that. But on a
Yeah.
car, you kind of lying down, sort of, because you don't the seats are just like a piece of foam, like dig inside the car. So yeah, that was one of the different things. Yeah, it's really hard to adapt. I mean, I had a few spins, you know. I had a crash actually because it
Oh
was just so.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah, it was hard to get through. It wasn't that bad of a crash, but yeah, I did crash one or two times. But yeah, it was definitely really difficult.
Okay, so what was the, I guess, what was going through your mind when you found out that you were gonna be part of the lineup? Like, when did you find out, and like what was going on?
I mean, uh, yeah, when I signed for Argenti, you know, you could really, because in preseason you could really test with different teams. So which I did. I tested with a bunch of other teams, and I thought Argenti was the best team there, the best team to go to in my situation. When I signed with them, I was excited. You know, it's everything was so surreal. Driving an F4, you know, it's such a big step up. You know, yeah, it's just unbelievable, really.
Okay, sorry. So you signed with them. Is it so you signed with the team before you find out that you're gonna be on the lineup? Is that right?
Yeah, so basically, when you sign for the team, you basically know you're in the lineup already. So it's really up to the drivers if what team they want to be with. Um, yeah, so I did sign with Argenti, and
Okay.
yeah,
Right. Okay. So okay, now I wanted to ask about, I guess, the situation here in the Philippines with racing. Do you think that it's something, because you mentioned earlier that it was pretty small sport. There's not that many tracks. There's not that many. places to race. But do you think it's something that could grow here in the country?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think Philippine racing was quite big back in the day. I mean, a few years before I started, there's a lot of people who's into racing, a lot of carters. I think a lot of big names like I think Matteo Guidicelli. I think you know him. I think he's an actor. Yeah, he used to
Yeah, he's
race
pretty. He's not
racing.
I don't think he's a racer anymore.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, but he used to.
Yeah,
Uh, what else? I think you know Marlon Stockinger.
Marlon Stockinger. Yeah, he's also
Yeah,
I don't know if he's still a racer. Also,
yeah. I don't know what he does now, but
I think he's also. I don't know if he's like artista also, but yeah. Okay, go on.
he used to date the words back. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it used to be really big then. Like a lot of the Asian Championship was hosted in the Philippines, which now is not so common. I mean, the grid is so much less than before. So I think maybe in the future with the right people, they could grow the motorsport again. Get a lot of young kids to stick to karting, and get a lot of new generations in ready for the following years.
Definitely. Do you think though, aside from it growing here in the country, do you think it's a sport that Filipinos could succeed in? I mean, because obviously, I think it's a good start, especially you're the first Filipino to be in F4. But
Yeah.
do you think it's something that a lot more Filipinos could uh, find success in?
I mean, I think anyone could like with the right passion for the sport, right determination. Really depends on the person, really not really where they're from. But definitely if you come from the Philippines, it's really hard, like especially for me. Like just everyone who comes from the Philippines is really hard, because it's not a lot of people compared to Europe start karting. I mean, when I was racing, the grid then was like about 15 drivers or less, but in Europe when I was racing there was like 70 drivers, something like that per race. And the world championship was crazy. It was something like 200, something like that. But yeah, definitely is hard to start when you're in the Philippines, but I think it's possible. Yeah.
Wait, so just to backtrack a little, when you moved over there, it was really for racing.
Yeah, I was just for racing. Moved here away from my family, changed schools, just for racing.
So how was that? Like what happened? Like you were here and then you transferred to the UK. You said you were in a boarding school, and then
Yeah.
like what was it like racing, like training every day? What was the situation like?
Uh, the school I went to was really understanding about the situation. So I was absent in a lot of days in school. I mean, I think I was racing every weekend, so I'll be away on a Thursday, come back on a Sunday night or a Monday early morning, then ready for school again on Monday, and then do the same thing again every week.
And this went on for how like this is until now or
Uh, Not anymore. I mean, I stopped karting, so the karting is in karting. There's a lot of championships to join, so you could race almost potentially every weekend. But for F4, I think I do 1 or 2 days a week for preseason. I think there's like one race every month from May till September or October. I'm not really sure. I think there's nine total races. So yeah, it's not as hectic as karting.
so okay, it's not as hectic, but what's the difference now with you're part of I'm not sure if you were part of like a team before, but because now you're
Yeah.
signed with Argenti. So what's the how big of a difference is it having this whole team behind you?
I mean, yeah, in karting. There's a lot of teams as well, and I was part of a team. Um, yeah, it's really different aspects. I mean, I would say an F4 is a lot more professional in terms because of the level of racing and the money put into it. Definitely more professional than karting for sure. Yeah, I think that's the only difference really. I mean, you get less people in the team because in karting you can have like maybe like one till let's say 15 drivers. So that's drivers plus a mechanic per driver, and then you have the team boss, the coaches, the data men. There's a lot of people in the team, but now in F4 it's not that much. It's just a few. So you go like 3 cars, 3 mechanics, a chief mechanic, the owner, a coach, and your engineers. So it's not that much people. Yeah, that's the main differences in karting and cars.
Okay, there's this question that I like to ask my guests, but it's usually for team sports. I'm not you. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was looking at your Instagram, and then you have the number 55. Is that right?
No, I have the number 36.
Number, I don't know what I was looking at then. Okay,
Oh,
but
maybe that was my karting number. Sorry.
yeah, okay. Sorry. Do you guys get to choose that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we
Okay,
definitely
okay.
do.
So I'm curious to know because I asked this with my last guest. Like, there's usually a story behind jersey numbers.
Yeah, sure.
There are obviously times when it's random, but like for the most part, athletes have a backstory. So I wanted to know if there's a backstory behind your choice.
Yeah, there is. I mean, so in karting you can't really choose your number because there's too much people that it would be difficult to arrange who wants what. So in F4 you get to choose your number really. So I initially chose number 16, but it was taken, so I chose 36 instead. But 16 was my dad's racing number,
Okay,
and
okay.
second choice as well was 36. If he
So
did,
why
if
36?
sorry,
His second choice. You
yeah,
mean?
his second choice as
Okay,
well is
okay.
36. He didn't get 16, so I chose 36. I just wanted to choose my dad's number. I think it's probably the reason why I'm here today. Just good to carry like the legacy. Sharing the
Yeah.
same last name. Yeah, he's probably made me the driver I am today. So just thankful to just carry his number.
So does your dad give you a lot of like, let's say, tips on racing, or would you say that you're like already better than him?
I wouldn't say that I was better than him. I would say that the styles of driving was different back then because the the technology of motorsport
Oh yeah,
has gotten way better than before
for
when he
sure.
used to race. Yeah, so I think the driving style is different. Everything else, there's a lot of things that he doesn't know because it's quite new. Yeah, but for sure he does give me some basic tips that the old generation and the new generation share, like fitness, discipline, things like that.
So I have this short segment that I have with all my guests. It's called Change Court, Change Sport. So it's just quick two questions. So the first question here is, um, you've been racing since you were a young kid. Is there any other sport that that might have piqued your interest, or like even until now, that is there a sport that you've seen and you've always wanted to try?
I mean, I was quite a sporty kid. I would say I've done a lot of sports, done basketball, football, and volleyball. I don't think I'd like to try maybe baseball or golf. But I did enjoy football quite a lot. I think I still play football up to now. Well,
Yeah,
I can't really.
it's really calm. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
basketball here. It's everywhere there,
yeah.
right?
Football here in England is quite a well-known sport. A lot of kids play it. But yeah, when I came here, I started playing football right away. I think I played for my school team, but now with the pandemic, you can't really play.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
that's gone to a pause, and I've been really busy with racing as well. So yeah, I can't really don't have time for football.
Okay, I'm not so sure how, considering you're not in the country, I'm not sure if you follow that much Philippine sports, but is there any, this is supposed to be in the context of the Philippines. So who would you say is your favorite athlete, but from a different sport?
Okay, but he has to be in the Philippines.
Yes. I don't know if
Okay.
you follow it, but yeah, if you
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
okay, okay.
My dad used to watch a lot of PBA, so I used to
Okay.
watch with him as well. So no, it's a lot of people that catches my interest in terms of favorite athletes. Can't really choose one. I mean, what's his name? I liked Calvin Abueva. I liked him quite a
Oh
bit.
man, yeah. Okay, so you're
Yeah,
really updated, yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's pretty good. The how he plays and his way to like tease the other opponents with. Yeah, It's quite funny. So yeah, I like him quite a lot.
Yeah, he really. I would say he really represents Filipino basketball. Like he
Yeah,
plays
for sure.
hard.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Okay. Well. Before we end, I guess I just wanted to ask. Do you have any last message and I guess maybe tips for all the racing fans here in the country and maybe even aspiring racers for the future?
Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I don't really know what to say. Yeah, it's not really a well known sport, but is pretty good in terms of like parents watching or kids watching. It's good. It's good for young kids to start karting because I think I've matured really earlier than a lot of my other friends because just because of karting. I mean, discipline you need to have in karting is w- a lot. You need to be really disciplined. I mean, being a good driver probably the same with the physicality of the driver. Whoever's the most mature probably wins the race. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good sport to join.
And I guess also, to all the parents, you wouldn't really have to worry about teaching them how to drive when they're older.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I think it's a big advantage for people to start racing. I think they find driving on the road quite easy because they're already used to everything. Yeah.
So okay, well, you haven't really started driving. I was gonna ask if it translates, but do you think you would be a fast driver when it starts? When you can
Um,
actually drive, na?
I've been driving in the Philippines like around my neighborhood.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm bit naughty, I go outside without my parents know. But yeah, I don't really see the point of driving really fast unless the area is really safe. Like if it's just like an airstrip that's an abandoned airstrip or a closed road where it's just straight and there's nothing to hit, not a lot of people. And yeah, maybe you could like you go fast there. But I think on the road I think there's no point really. I don't really
Yeah.
see
Well,
fast.
if you're back here in the Philippines, you really couldn't go that fast, anyways. It's traffic everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's not very nice place to drive unless you're in the highway. The new highways are
Yeah,
quite nice. I think.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
Okay. So once again, that was Eduardo Coseteng. First of all, good luck to you in the upcoming F4. I think the first circuit is May 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can support Eduardo there, and you can watch him. I guess there are probably a lot of places where we can watch you.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I have to update you with that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
no
if they'll stream
problem.
on Facebook, but for now it's only in British television. There's an app you can download, but you have to switch your store to a UK stores. It's called ITV for ITV Hub, something like that. Yeah, we'll update you with it if there's any live streaming anywhere
Sure,
else.
sure. All right. Once again, thank you so much for your time. It was really, really nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Please don't hesitate. Let us know what other sports or who the other athletes you'd like to see and hear from. We'll try our best to get them on the podcast. Please also don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts and of course to subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, this has been the Sports Season Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.